All right. Welcome to the Bloomington Rotary Club's weekly celebration of service for February 23rd, already 2021. I'm your current president, Ashley Wesley. Thank you so much for being here. Natalie, please show the flag graphic for 15 seconds of respectful silence. We ask that you remain on mute and take this time to personally reflect. Thank you. I'd like to introduce myself, who will be offering the reflection today. Happy World Rotary Day. Today, February 23rd, is the day we celebrate the 116th anniversary of the formation of the very first Rotary Club in Chicago. This makes it World Rotary Day as well, a day where we can be proud and celebrate the achievements and successes of Rotary around the world. I was reminded about the incredible connections that we've been able to make this year when I was watching Rotary International President Holger Knox's message this morning. He said that he's attended more Rotary meetings this year than any president in Rotary's history from home, but he has. And so it just put me in mind that we have been able to welcome each other into our screens and continue to open opportunities, which is the theme this year. Despite the massive challenges we face, and this has been the message we've shared many times, but I'm very proud of the work that we've done virtually and the way we've still been able to connect with each other. And we have a lot to be proud of the last 116 years. And my hope is that we'll continue to improve and adapt and grow for many more. So if you'd like to offer a reflection next week or the rest of this quarter, please sign up. You can have this spot right here. We've got some spots available and I'd love to hear from you. And you'll hear less from me. So win-win for everybody. Okay, introduction of our guests. Owen, would you like to start us off introducing your guests, please?
I would be pleased to. I have two guests. One is the Reverend Scott Kennefock, who is the transitional senior pastor at First Presbyterian Church. We used to call them an interim, but now he helps us transition from our past permanent pastor to our next one. And my other guest is coming back to a meeting, the Reverend Lisa Schubert Nowling, who is the senior pastor at First United Methodist Church.
Great, thank you. Welcome. Jim Bright, do you have a guest today?
Lori Thompson, are you out there? I guess not.
Okay.
Back to you.
Well, if Lori joins us, welcome. Judy Schroeder has two potential guests. I'm not sure if they've both joined us, Bo Valance and Ann Armstrong. So welcome if you're out there. And Connie Shikalis, please introduce your guests.
I have two wonderful guests, both of whom happen to be my personal friends as well. My first guest is Fiona Bukowski, whom I've known for about 21 years, and we met when she was my mentor, teaching me how to be an ombudsperson for the state of New York, advocating for people who live in adult homes and nursing homes. And she is a phenomenal EMT in Long Island. During all this COVID stuff, she has ridden in the ambulance and saved lives, and she won a very big award about, 5 months ago. And my second guest is the fabulous Stephanie von Hirschberg, climate activist and past senior editor and literary agent.
Welcome. Thanks, Connie. Glenn Steenberger has a guest with us today. Glenn, would you like to introduce them?
I sure would. I'd like to welcome a family friend. Brian Boyd is a documentary filmmaker and has several projects in the works. You may have recently seen the Brown County opioids on WTHR, and Brian has been working on that project as well. And welcome, Brian.
Thanks so much. And Alon Barker has a guest.
I certainly do. My guest today is Joni Spain, the one and only Joni Spain. Very happy to have her with us. She's a colleague from work and also a volunteer at Teachers Warehouse. And you may see her dog Toby jump up on the couch behind her every now and then. He might be. But anyway, it's great to have Joni with us.
Welcome, everyone. And if I missed anyone, Jack Kahn is here today. Joy's father, our speaker's father, has joined us. Welcome, Jack. So good to see you.
And Ashley, my sister Hillary, is also here.
Welcome, Hillary.
Welcome, Hillary. She just joined, I think, so she's here.
Great.
Hillary Kahn. And I have a friend who's also joining as a guest, but I'm not sure. Pat Medland, are you here yet? I'm not sure if I saw him. So he may hopefully join us later. Thank you.
Well, welcome to all.
Hi, I'm Lori.
Hi, Lori.
And Jim Bright invited me. I'm from the Columbus Sunrise Rotary Club. He was at our meeting last week.
Yes, so nice to see you. Welcome.
So glad you could make it, Lori.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks to our producers, Natalie Blaze, Michael Shermis, Sally Gaskell, Aaron Davis, for making this all possible, and our roundabout reporter, Alon Barker. We have one birthday, Glenda Murray, February 24th. Happy birthday, Glenda. And one membership anniversary, Art Lotz has been 41 years as a Rotarian, too, in our club. So congratulations, Art. Rotarians in the news. The latest issue of Bloom magazine is full of interesting features, including highlights of our very own Alon Barker and Jim Sims' wife, Doris Sims. So we have a lot in there to check out. I recommend picking up a copy when you can. Congrats, Alon. We have a couple announcements. This Friday, February 26th at 7:30 is the Friends of the Rotary Foundation event over Zoom. Using the email that you should have received from Betty Dunham, you can register online to check that out. I would highly recommend you attending to celebrate the life of Judy Bush and to learn more about the Rotary Foundation. Saturday, April 17th from 10 to 2 is our district conference via Zoom. You can also sign up via an email sent likely from Betty Dunham and register for that conference. So we hope that you'll join us for that as well. We have lots of opportunities always available for volunteering, but you can find those in the roundabout. I will leave those for you to read that on your own time because we have hyper happy dollars. We want to make sure we have enough time to raise some money for the scholarships. The scholarships we offer for high school students are a standard offering of the Rotary Club for many years in many communities, and we want to continue doing that. And so this year we're hoping to raise $3,000 today to fund our scholarships. And so I believe we have somebody out there that would be willing to kick us off for the first happy dollars to share. And I see Matt Stitzinger, would you lead the way?
Sure, Ashley, I'd be happy to. As chair of the scholarship committee, I'm happy to donate $50 to the cause, and really appreciate everyone who's able to donate today. It's a very worthy cause. We have a lot of very deserving students out there, and just honored to chair the committee again. So thank you very much.
And
I will match Matt's 50 with 50.
Awesome, thanks, Glenn. There are ways to pay. If you want to pay over PayPal, you can add it in the link in the chat. You can pay over PayPal. You can send a check to the foundation. All this information will be in the roundabout. And you can also have it added to your bill. If you want your contribution added to your bill, just let Natalie know. Okay.
This is Hank. I'm also on Matt's committee, and I'm also pledging $50.
Thank you.
I may raise that task a bit higher. I will go for $100.
Thank you,
Raj. Call you and raise you.
Yeah.
I'll add mine to 100 as well.
Okay, wow. Alon's adding another $50. I see Rex Hillary.
Yes, in memory of Keith Klein, I'd like to add $100.
Thank you so much. Connie Shikalis?
Now I feel cheap, but I'd like to add, oh, he said 50. Okay, he upped it to 50. 50 in honor of my two guests today.
Yay. Hal?
Yes, I will also add 100, and I'm doing it in honor of this day in 1954 when the Jonas Salk vaccine began mass inoculations against polio.
Okay,
And that's, yeah, go ahead.
go ahead, Hal. Okay, I'm Charlotte. I will add 75 just to confuse the thing.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Whoops.
Okay.
This is Sarah. This is Sarah. And because I haven't been going out for dinner or really buying any shoes, you know, having drinks with anyone, I'll put in $100.
Thank you, Sarah.
I'll contribute $100 in honor of the award ceremony on Saturday night that will honor outstanding Black individuals in the Bloomington community.
This is Dave, and I will put in $100. It sounds selfish, but I'm feeling really positive because I signed up for a COVID vaccination this morning, so I'm going to celebrate that.
Okay.
This is Trent. On behalf of Kyla and I, we would also throw in $100 for this. Keith was the every person for every person, literally. And in his honor, I even took a break from work and turned my camera on because that's what Keith always did for us. So we'll do that.
Thank you, Trent.
And I want to thank Hal for reminding us about the polio vaccine. I was looking at your background going, oh my, I remember that. So I will donate $250 in Keith's honor for the scholarships.
Thank you, Glenda.
You're welcome.
As a
Ashley,
new
I'll
member,
increase my
I need
donation
to
to
figure out how
$100
this system works, so I'll be happy to donate $100 to the cause.
Thank you, Bill. As you can see, there's no real system. It's kind of Aaron Davis.
And I'll sneak in Martha and I with $50.
Thank you so much.
In honor of our second vaccines.
Yay.
Yay.
This is Bill Murphy, and I'll kick in $50 also in memory of Keith Klein.
Thank you so much, Bill.
Ashley, I'll do that as well. This is Kate Crookshank, and this is also, I mean, mostly for Keith, but also for my second shot. I must say I've got an extremely sore arm.
Really? Oh
But
dear.
a small price to pay.
Absolutely. Thanks, Kate.
Ashley, Ann Bright and I are in each for $100 in memory of our good friend, Keith Klein.
Thank you, Jim. Bill Perkins.
Yes, I'll kick in $100 in honor of Keith Klein and the fact that I'm going to Arizona in 2 days.
Oh.
Hey, wow. Okay. Anyone else?
Tim Jessen here. I'd like to donate $100, $50 in honor of Keith Klein, with whom I taught at Ivy Tech, and $50 for Dick Hamilton, our mayor's father, who recently died. He also is a fellow minister who served in this community and with great grace and dignity. Thank you.
You can.
That's what happened.
Ashley, we've had a number of donations in the chat as well, including Matt, chair of the committee, who is increasing his donation to $100 in appreciation of everybody's generosity.
We see Joy Harder, Judy Schroeder in honor of Mike Baker's great job with the foundation, and Stephanie von Hirschberg donated $50. Sally and Leslie Green, $50. Marilyn, $50. Dick McCaig from out west, $100. Jim Shea, $50. And yes, Matt increased his donation to 100. So wow, we are on a roll, everybody. Any other donations to round us out here today?
How far are we from the end?
I don't know. Natalie's doing furious math right now. Our guest.
I'll have a number in just a few minutes.
Yeah, take your time. We'll announce Brian Boyd's donated $50. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's so nice.
Ashley, does this go to the foundation or the club?
It
I'm
goes
sorry,
to
I
the
was.
foundation. You can make checks payable to the Rotary Foundation, Bloomington Rotary Foundation, or it will be added to your bill. Or you can do the PayPal link. I see some people have done that as well. Fiona, Connie's guest, has donated $50 as well. Thank you so much. And Jeff Bradley, thank you. What an outpouring from everyone. We appreciate you so much for funding these scholarships. I know when I joined the Rotary Club, my first meeting as a guest was the scholarship meeting, and I'll never forget it. After that meeting, I thought, I'm always going to come back to this club. That's so inspiring to see the next generation be provided with these opportunities. And I was hooked. So thank you for continuing to support that. And we'll have a final total soon, but I don't want to delay hearing from our wonderful speaker today. So Jim, would you introduce our speaker for today?
I'd be delighted. Ashley, it's my pleasure to introduce our good friend and fellow Rotarian, Joy Kahn Harder. As an elder care professional, Joy has been working with elders and their families for 26 years. A licensed health facility administrator, Joy formerly served as executive director at Bell Trace for 15 years. 2 years ago, Joy returned to Meadowood, where she is currently director of social work services. Joy got her professional start in healthcare at Meadowood in 1995 as admissions social services director for the Meadowood Health Pavilion. As director of social work services at Meadowood, Joy connects residents to needed community services. She arranges support services for those discharging from the facility, and she helps individuals and their families navigate through life's many challenges and transitions. Joy is a counselor, coach, advisor, and practitioner, and she provides practical, emotional, spiritual, and psychosocial support and guidance to those who cross her path. Last summer, Joy completed her training as an end-of-life doula through the Conscious Dying Institute, further expanding her capability to help and educate individuals and their families facing end-of-life issues. Now, starting next May, Joy will begin serving as an online teaching assistant for that institute. On the Rotary front, what a Rotarian. Joy was president of our club in 2014-15 and earlier served as our club secretary. And at the district level, Joy has served as RILA district chair, New Generations chair, and Rotary Leadership Institute facilitator. Joy enjoys playing piano, practicing yoga, taking photographs, writing, reading, practicing mindful meditation, providing Reiki, a healing energy modality using gentle touch, connecting with nature, being outdoors, cloud watching, and now that she no longer owns her own Harley-Davidson motorcycle, riding on the back of her husband's. During her year as club president, Joy led an effort to add the +1 to our 4-way test. Is it fun? Please join me in a warm welcome to fellow Bloomington Rotarian, Joy Harder.
Oh my gosh, Jim. You've just revealed everything that you could possibly know about me. Thank you so much for that heartfelt introduction. And my heart is overflowing right now just after that outpouring of generosity towards the scholarships and for Keith. I mean, I'm just beaming from ear to ear from that. And this opportunity to speak to my Rotary family about, yes, a subject that is near and dear to my heart. That too is, I can't tell you how honored I am. And I wish I could stop and say hello to each and every one of you, my Rotary friends. My family is here, my sister and my dad, and my good friend Pat Medland, who I've known for quite some time. So thank you all for being here. You know, I hope that you get out of today's conversation, celebration of service, that your takeaway is that you find you have a bit more positive thought process about death, perhaps a little bit more ease and openness, and that it perhaps encourages you to have more conversations with loved ones, with family members, about what matters to you the most, not only at the end of life, but in your life. If you walk away with that, that's a good, I'll be happy with that. But let's be honest and open. Talking about death is not a comfortable subject for most people. Now, I've made it my purpose in life to talk about it. So I'm pretty much comfortable with this. I know some of you are probably squirming a little bit, and that's good. I want you to feel the squirm because, you know, part of this is just opening up to talking. So we're also going to do something a little different for the first time today in our Zoom celebration of service. And this is in the interest of getting you thinking about this, for some of you, perhaps uncomfortable subject. And for others of you, I'm sure you are comfortable. So we're going to do a poll on the screen, on your monitor and screen. You're going to have come up 2 questions that I'd like you to answer. And by how you do that is you'll see that they're multiple choice questions and they're ABC. You click next to the answer that suits you the best at this moment. And then at the bottom of the prompt of the poll, you'll see a blue submit button. So you check what your 2 answers and you click submit. This is completely anonymous. I cannot see your answers. So don't hesitate if you think, oh, Joy's going to see my answer. It's anonymous, and then Michael will collect the responses and I'll share them with you. So we're going to give you about 20 or 30 seconds. Michael, are you with me? Here goes. All right. Poll number 1. Okay, 4 more seconds. Are we good? Okay. Now Michael's going to somehow magically shoot me responses. All right, here we go. With the first question, would you say that you are afraid of death? Oops, went away. Okay, would you say that you are afraid of death? 11% of you said yes. 52% of you said no. And 37% of you said somewhere between yes and no. The second question, talking about dying and my mortality, 72% of you said it reminds me to appreciate life and the time I have. 28% of you say it's something I'm comfortable with, or I'm not comfortable with, but I do contemplate it at times. And then 0% of you said it's something I don't care to discuss. And and that's, wow, that's 72% of you are okay with talking about death. So that makes me all the more comfortable to talk with you. Yay. All right. So why is it though? Why is it hard to talk about death in general? It's hard and it's scary because it's an unknown. None of us can have the experience. We can't go talk to people who've died because, well, right, we can't gather their experience. And it's sort of an alien concept, really, if you really start thinking about it. Truth of the matter is we are all going to die. There is nothing more unifying and that we have in common than our mortality and our death. Young or old, rich or poor, and we don't know when death will come, but death comes. And our bodies inherently, innately, by their nature, are destined to die. So our mortality is we are mortal, and we don't probably in large part feel prepared or comfortable thinking about that because it is so unknown. The sad part is that our culture, we're somewhat of a death phobic culture. We are still a youth obsessed culture. We are a feel good society. Not that these are bad things, but what it has done, it radically unprepares us for dying and does not promote us thinking and embracing death and the end of life. And again, I'm sure some of this, might make you uncomfortable to think about, but, Dr. Deepak Chopra, I'm sure that's not an unfamiliar name to many of you. He says that the fear of death is one of the greatest stressors that we as humans put on ourselves. He equates that the need for understanding our inevitable death is as important as a good night's sleep, as good nutrition, as the things we do to relax and to de-stress. It's that important to our overall well-being to have spent a little time contemplating death. And as I said, our American culture hasn't helped much in the preparation for death. Death, unfortunately, is a medical event, as it is now, hidden from view. Most people, even though they would choose to die at home, if I were to ask you that, you would probably say, I would want to die at home. The reality is that most people die in a hospital, die in a nursing home. And that it's not these, I'll use the word ceremonial and celebratory experience that over 100 years ago and beyond that, and perhaps in other cultures, that death and dying is. So it really has left many people with a disconnect and just denial and no, I don't want to think about it. But the good news is we can change that. You can change that. And death can be your greatest teacher. It has been my greatest teacher in so many ways. And perhaps some of you are familiar with the book as well as the video, Being Mortal, written by Dr. Atul Gawande. He begs the all-important question, that question being, what are your priorities if your time is limited? Truth be told, all of our time is limited. This is not a question to be saved for the end of life. It's a question to pose to yourself now. What matters the most to me? And by just simply entertaining that question, you open yourself to possibilities for a fuller life, a better death, an articulated what you want is will just in and of itself will decrease any fear or apprehension that you have. Dr. Gawande also, basically says that the struggle that we do have with being mortal has very much to do with maintaining the integrity of our lives. And we are not entirely in control of what's going to happen to us, how we're going to die, our genetics, and something falling from the sky, things, your ultimate demise, you don't necessarily know that. Sometimes you do. It can be expected, but oftentimes unexpected. And yet, in the face of these foreseen or unforeseen challenges, we can remain the author, as Dr. Gawande says, the author of our own lives, and shape those lives for our meaning and for our benefit. I do want to say a word about, speaking of unimaginable circumstances, and the sobering milestone yesterday of over 1 million people in the United States have died from COVID. I just need a moment of silence for that. Whew. This pandemic is changing the way, and I hope it is, changing the way that we understand mortality. It's putting it right front and center. How can it not? We have all, in one way or another, felt deeply the impact of this pandemic. And I don't know what greater sign we needed to make us realize that the silence that we've had around death is not helping us, it's hurting us, and that we can reawaken in many ways. I also read recently a New York Times opinion piece by a Dr. B.J. Miller, who basically said we have two choices. We can either share life with death or we can be robbed by it. And essentially that's the title of my talk today is folding death into life, which is a positive thing. It's a very positive thing. And also asking, what is death to me and how do I want to be remembered is very important. There is truly a movement underfoot for a death positive movement. It's a thing. It really is a thing. And well before COVID-19 and a pandemic. So many alternatives and traditional ways of doing things surrounding dying and death are being reimagined and rethought. And this is where I will, you're going to get another poll here in a minute. And who would have thought that there would be such a thing? And I don't know if you see this backwards, you actually get to see it. A deck of cards that's called the death deck. Really, Joy? There's really a death deck? Well, the two questions that you're getting in the next little bit come from this game. It's a lively game of surprising conversations, all intended to help you have those what are difficult conversations, but to approach some of these in a way that is a little bit easier. So there are so many new alternatives out there and I can't even begin to start. So Michael, if you're ready, so you're going to get two questions and let's see how you answer them. Go ahead. You're getting close there, Michael.
Just about.
All righty.
There we go.
Okay.
And
the results are, here they come. Which of these eco-friendly burial options would you consider for your remains? 49% of you said body composting. 10% of you said aquamation, so that's cremation by water. 5% of you said a mushroom burial suit. Yes, it is a thing. Yes, it's real. You get eaten by fungi. Yes. And 36% of you said none of the above. Okay, interesting. And perhaps, I would ask you the question, had you even heard of aquamation? Did you even know there was a burial suit? Probably not. Okay. And I see Judy put a note in here. Not a fair question to those of us who are giving our bodies to the medical school. A completely wonderful and valid use of a body. So you're absolutely right, Judy. Don't disagree. Second question, would you consider a biodegradable burial pod that uses your remains to grow a tree? 64% of you said totally. And if the tree bears fruit, you can enjoy me in a whole new way. 28% of you would be undecided or think maybe plant a tree instead. And 8% of you say, no, not up my alley, not my idea of returning to my roots. All right, cool. Things to think about. Very interesting. Thank you for participating in that poll. All right. So I want to talk about and tell you about being a death doula and how I got to this place in my life. I actually when I think about when this really started to formulate for me and take its real form, it was probably several years ago when I had dealt with both breast cancer and uterine cancer. And the year prior, my dear sister had breast cancer. My mother was ailing and fighting her own medical battles. And I think I learned such tremendous lessons from my own vulnerabilities and my own challenges that led me to be on the path to become a doula. I'll say a little bit more about that in a bit, but I want to explain to you okay, Joy, what a death doula, what is that? And the role of a doula isn't necessarily, it's not a new one. The word itself, doula, has Greek origin. It means a woman who serves. And the word, the role gained its prominence in the late 60s, early 70s when natural childbirth was becoming more prominent. And much like a birth doula would help with natural childbirth and bringing life into the world, a death doula does it on the other end of the spectrum. And death doulas, also known as end-of-life doula, I'm giving you other terms that you may hear that are essentially referring to the same role, an end-of-life doula, an end-of-life coach, a soul midwife. These are all the same terms for this role. We as doulas are trained elder care professionals, practitioners, and frontline caregivers. We provide an individual and their families with holistic support before, during, and after death. We promote and encourage meaningful conversations. Although I'm doing all the talking right now, you're listening, so sort of a conversation, but in promoting these conversations about life and death. And ultimately, helping to transform the culture of how we die and ultimately change the face of dying to be more death positive. As a doula, I would be available at any time to assist an individual and their families. The work itself can take many forms. For instance, sitting vigil with a dying person while the family takes a break. Being present, a calming presence for someone who is terminally ill and dying, and explaining what's happening. And being a liaison between medical professionals and what a doula does. And I will say that a doula does not offer medical care. And yet there's no competing with what would, say, be offered from a hospice team. But a doula is part of that team and can fill that gap between what medical professionals can offer and the time that they have, which is generally limited. A doula has open opportunities to be present fully and help meet the needs, help things be understood, help with any emotional situations, or things are very tense and stressful and high intensity in and around someone's illness or their ultimate departure. And as a doula, I would be the calm in the room. I would be the joy in the room. And help with preparation spiritually, mentally, and the many practical components as well. So there's a large array of services offered. And it's essentially helping to create a beautiful life through death experience. And as I said, this all really started to take shape for me several years ago, but I look back on my life and I see that I was always destined to do this. I'm a child of Woodstock, New York. That's where I was born and raised. And I have always been spiritual, maybe not as practicing as I am now, but it's always been in me. And my dad, my mom and dad, when my sister and I were 10 and 13, took us to a transcendental meditation center. I don't know, it was either Saugerties or Woodstock, I can't remember which hills. And we learned how to meditate at such a young age. And it's always been my path. And I am just so securely footed on doing this work for the rest of my life. I can't imagine having any greater, more sacred responsibility and doing this work that I intend to do till I die. And also being this part of this wave of increased consciousness and awareness about life and death. Okay, how are we doing on time? Okay. So I do want to somehow weave this in to I'm sorry, jumping back and forth. I would be completely remiss if I didn't mention my mom's passing, which was on September 11, 2019. It was actually when I was originally to attend my training to be a doula at the Conscious Dying Institute in Asheville, North Carolina. And of course, my choice and where I wanted to be and needed to be was with my mom. At that time, she passed at Hospice House here in Bloomington. And what a gift, what a tremendous gift that my sister and my dad and I were given by Mom to be with her and to witness her final sweet breath. There is nothing like that in the world. And it's transformative. And I needed my mom to tell me, Joy, you're going to be a doula, she did. And I'll never forget it. And she, to this day, is my guide, is absolutely constantly leading me and part of this call to do this work. So Rotary, I feel that my work is just an extension and embodiment of my service above self. And it's work of the soul. And we all feel this way, I hope, to some degree. And it materializes in its own way with each of us. But it is truly work of the soul. And when we serve, we know that we belong to life and its purpose. And we see that my suffering is everyone's suffering and vice versa, and that all joy is my joy, and we're so interconnected. There's just no denying that. The four-way test has never meant more to me than it does now. And I take these words to heart. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? And yes, is it fun? And I, having had a little to do with adding is it fun to the four-way test, I have expanded on that definition a little bit, although acknowledging the lighthearted nature of fun. But here's what I've come up with. And this is another way to fold death into our lives. F of fun is for free to feel and lean into the moment. U is untethered and unattached to old thoughts, old habits, old patterns. That's another freedom. And N for new beginnings right here, right now. So I hope when we recite the four-way test +1 at the end of our meetings, you maybe give a little thought to, oh, Joy said something about feel the moment or untether or something, that you give some thought to that. I would be very honored for that. We're going to have one more question, and then we'll get towards the end and we can take all sorts of questions. The last question is from a wonderful book written by a gentleman, Frank Ostaseski, who wrote the book, The 5 Invitations. And I will mention now too, that I have a resource list of some books that I recommend, as well as some websites, if this is something of interest to you, for you to poke around and check, that will be available. Michael, I don't know if we're going to put it in the chat, or you can email me and I will send it to you. Happy to do that. But in his book, The Five Invitations, he speaks of the transformative power of death. And he suggests 5 guides to coping with death, which not only apply to death, apply to life, apply to any life's challenge. And they're just good, as he says, bottomless practices. You know, do these things and you'll cultivate this sense of openness. The first one is not waiting, don't wait, which is allowing yourself to be free of your pain and to really focus on forgiveness of others, forgiveness of yourself. And number 2, welcoming everything, pushing away nothing. And that's all about being present in the moment that's right before you. It's not being reactive, it's being open and attentive to whatever is before you. Number 3, bringing your whole self to any experience. You know, none of us are pure, perfect human beings. We have our broken parts, we have our wounds, we have our struggles. There's no such thing as not having that. There's not. And when you bring your full self to an experience, you're integrating and you're giving the whole of yourself, and that's so hugely important. Number 4, find a place of rest in the middle of things. So that's finding that quiet place within, however you are able to quiet the chatter of the mind and just be at peace. And that's unique to your way of doing that. Lastly, cultivating what he calls don't know mind. And to me, that's having fresh, open eyes on the world, being curious, having wonder and awe in all that is around you, and letting go of the need for control. Okay, now you get to answer and hopefully identify with one of those 5 as some practice that you could take to heart and utilize. So go. All right. Almost there, Mr. Shermis?
Here we go.
Cool. All right, and responses are, drum roll please. There we are. Okay, of the 5 invitations, which invitation will you try to practice? Could you try to practice? 11% of you said, let go of pain and forgive those who have hurt you. The don't wait. 30% of you said welcoming and being open to everything, not pushing anything away and suspending judgment. 21% of you said, I will bring my whole self to the experience, accepting all parts of myself. 15% said finding a place of rest within, in the middle of things, and giving full attention to the moment. And 23% said cultivating the don't know mind, looking at life with fresh eyes and curiosity and wonder. I love how that is really spread out, and that's wonderful. That's great. And I hope that's a little bit of a takeaway for all of you today. And I think that's it. I think I'm ready for questions. Oh, and I see your Joy, we had to choose one. I know you could do more than one. Well, I don't know, maybe you couldn't. Michael,
No.
I don't know. Could you not? You couldn't pick more than one? Okay, sorry. So maybe some of you would do 2, 3, 5, all of those. And I hope you would. This was sort of a spontaneous, what can you do thing. All right, I'm open for questions. Let me have it.
Joy, you mentioned your spirituality. You mentioned hospice teams. How do you relate what you do to faith, Christians, Muslims, Jews? Where does that fit into your work and process?
Great question, Owen. And as a doula, I respect and honor all beliefs and practices and cultures of the person I'm serving. My spirituality, I'm Jewish. I don't practice, but I'm a spiritual Jew, has nothing to do with what I do as a doula, other than it's my foundation, but it does not guide me. What guides me is what the individual's beliefs and practices are. And we spend a great deal of time in my training on diversity. In fact, I have this 150-page diversity handbook that, for me as a guide, if I find myself working with someone from a culture that I am not familiar with, I want to make sure that I will learn, because it's that important to respect and honor the individual beliefs and cultures of that person. Does that answer your question?
It's good. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Joyce, I'm right. That is the most wonderful presentation to reach and accept death. I did have a health experience 11 years ago, which I did not think I would lose, but here I am. I faced death. At that moment, I accepted death. And when I wake up in the morning looking in that mirror, if there is no smile on my face, I ask myself, why? Indeed, accepting death is much more comforting than the people who don't know that experience. Put that aside, I appreciate very much your mindful yoga and spirituality. By the way, do you get Mindful magazine?
I do.
Make us two then. My question is, since Owen already touched on part of it, how long it takes you to be notified there is a very, very faithful family in their religion of whatever kind, till you understand where they stand and try to comfort the moment of death to those families? You really cannot walk cold with them dying as we speak. That it seemed to be very short for notice for you. The question is how long you prefer to be notified there is somebody might die.
I'm not sure I have a definitive answer for that, because whatever moment that I am notified, I will be fully present. And if it's, some people prefer to perhaps engage with a doula many months before. Others may want a doula for the final days. So it so depends. And again, it's not about me. So the preference for notification, I'm not taking the lead on that. I really am not. And I work with whatever would be given to me before me. So
in real life, your life, what experiences have you had? Where have you met people? At what point?
So because I continue to work at Meadowood, the opportunities thus far have been with residents at Meadowood. And Charlotte, if your question was what opportunities have I had to be a sacred witness? Yes, there have been several residents at Meadowood who, and I have to say at this point, it's still not an unofficial capacity. I am doing doula work, but it's within the structure of being at Meadowood. And I wouldn't have probably otherwise had those experiences and relationships had I not been working at Meadowood and continue to work there. Does that answer your question?
Well, it starts answering it.
Okay, it starts answering it. I mean, because quite honestly, I am still not, I'm working towards the unfolding of my own practice in this. And so my experience is just at this point what I've engaged with, well, within my own family, with those residents at Meadowood, and I see that continuing to grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question that's kind of an offshoot of that. Is a doula a paid position? And is this something that is available to people outside of Meadowood within the community at Beltrace?
Yes. Judy, doulas often are a paid service, and that is now the work that I've done thus far. There's been no charge that I've had at this point at all. But oftentimes there's either a so-called hourly package fee, or again, it's so dependent on what that person and their family need. So, but yes, generally there is a fee. And is this available at other communities? I would have to say no, at least locally, which is not to diminish what social workers and facilities do, and by any means, but I think I might be safe to say now, I'm not the only death doula in Bloomington. And in fact, I have to credit Reverend Mary Ann Macklin from Unitarian Church for guiding me towards the Conscious Dying Institute. But within a nursing facility such as Meadowood, I think that's unique right now. And I hope to promote that more. At least that's my hope. And ultimately then, at your final question, is this something available to people beyond Meadowood? Yes. And I'm just beginning to promote that. I'm at the very beginning of that part of this journey for me. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Joy.
Thank you.
We're going to pause to close our meeting, but can you stay for a few minutes?
Sure.
Answer your questions. Okay.
Sure.
As you know, we'll be making a donation to Beacon today in honor of your presentation. So thank you for sharing. And Sally, will you let us know what our program is next week?
Yes. I mean, I'm sure that you all agree with me that our programs are the best of lifelong learning. So please join us next week, March the 2nd, on Zoom, when we'll hear Jim Poyser, who is going to talk about signs of climate progress in Indiana.
Progress.
Thank you. And we have a final total for our Hyper Happy dollars. I'll share quickly before we close. $2,885.
Wow.
So amazing outpouring, everybody. Thank you so much for contributing. We're going to be able to offer those scholarships once again. And
it's such a wonderful thing.
So Alon's saying, let's make it 3K. If anybody wants to push us over the edge, go ahead and let us know.
I'll add 15 so that we only need 100 more.
Okay. I think we're going to make it. Alon's going another 50. Glenn bumped his donation up to 100. So
we're over the mark.
We're over it, I think. So thank you, everybody. We've made our goal, and I'm not surprised, but I'm delighted to share that news and so happy to offer these once again. So with that, in the spirit of celebration being Rotary's birthday, let's close out our meeting with the 4-way test. Of the things
we think, say, or
do. First is the truth. Second is a farewell return. Third will it build better friendships. Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? And is it fun?
And I'm going to think about that every time now, Joy. Thank you for sharing that expanded definition of fun. That's wonderful.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Another question.
I have a question. You say that elder care is where most of the doulas come from. What about people with children who need doula care and for whom, I mean, I've talked with my children about how I feel about dying, and, you know, I say I've lived a long life and a good life and it'll happen. I would feel very different if I had to talk about the death of my children. And I know some of you have been through that, and it's not the natural order of things. And often it's, but not always, it's sudden rather
It's after the fact.
with the elder population, you tend to have a whole lot more time. Anyway, do you want to say anything about that?
Sure, Martha. Thank you for that question. And I would say, if someone were to approach me as a doula for help and support and guidance through that, whether the event was post the event, one of the areas that doulas can offer help is with bereavement, with grief, with trauma, grief. And I would say if it was something, a subject that I felt I wasn't doing the best service for that person, I would make a referral. So any doula who feels that something is beyond their scope of practice or their profession or their experience would make an appropriate referral and would make sure that person gets the help that they need. So I would serve as a resource and support, but refer if it was needed. Does that answer your question? Were you also asking specifically